Yes. What is happening, everybody? Happy Tuesday night. It is time for Just the Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. We are going to break down all 11 fights on the UFC Vegas 69 card, which is coming up this Saturday. And it's going to be headlined by the handsome Jessica Andrade, and she is going to be squaring off against Erin Blanchfield. 5-round flyweight fight, which is going to be an absolute banger. Can't wait to break down all 11 fights with you guys. On the bottom of the screen, you see the link to the Patreon. That is where you can get the stats that you will see in today's video. I have upgraded my database. We are going to be including distance striking stats, striking by target, a bunch of new statistics which were not available in the stats last year are now going to be available going forward. There's going to be some new tiers in the Patreon with new products, not just including the prop template, which we already have, but a prize picks template, a DraftKings template, the advanced stats template with the distance striking statistics and the advanced grappling statistics. It's going to be a great analytical package for any UFC gambler that likes to make money, that likes to have the best, that likes to have access to the best information possible to help you make the best possible gambling decisions. So please check out the Patreon if you get a chance to, if you like the stats that you see on today's show. As far as last week went, last week was rough for me. Very rough. Bad capping week. The greasy 4-leg parlay, 3 out of the 4 legs cashed. The 4th leg, which was the Malarkey Prado under 2.5 rounds, crashed and burned. That wasn't even a fight. It was 2 people standing in front of each other, not doing anything. So that was truly unfortunate that that fight worked out the way that it did. And as a result of that, I lost a bet on that fight, 1 unit. I lost 1.5 units on the under 1.5 in the Preux Menafield fight. I lost 1 unit on the Tyson Pedro under because he didn't show up to the fight. And I lost a 1/4 unit on Loma Lubunmi round 3, a 1/4 unit on, what was it, like a plus 420 on something. I even forget what it was. And then I had a finish-only prop on Blake Builder, which pushed, and a decision-only prop on Parker Porter, which pushed. So down 4 units for the week, 0-4-2 on bets. The ass shaving of the week cashed in very easy fashion. Plus 100, Clayton Rodriguez inside the distance. Clayton made it look very easy. I think he finished the fight in under a minute. Absolute ass shaving. So I'm hoping that this week's ass shaving of the week continues the momentum that we picked up last week there. It was a rough week because there were a lot of unders that stuck out. And in those unders, you had Tyson Pedro coming out saying that he was vomiting and had diarrhea backstage before the fight, but from what I saw, he had it in the cage because like he just sucked. He didn't even show up to that fight, man. So I mean, if I were him, I'd come up with some excuses as well because he didn't even show up to that fight. So that fight didn't go under. The Preux Menafield fight was an absolute war, absolutely great fight. Disgraceful point deduction by a disgraceful ref in Mark Goddard, but that's what he does. He's a dog shit ref, and he makes dog shit calls. Cost Menafield the win there, but it was a great fight. And, it wound up a draw, and that was a very, very close fight anyway. I could have seen that going either way had the point not been taken away because both guys had success in that fight. But yeah, rough week for last week. But, those kind of weeks happen. Sometimes you get these cards that take place in front of live crowds, and you've got hometown fighters who you think are actually going to show up and try to impress the home crowd. But Tyson Pedro looked like dog shit. Jamie Malarkey looked like dog shit. So those were 2 of the 3 violence bets that I had, and guys didn't even show up to the fight. So it was truly unfortunate, especially in front of their own fans, to not even try and fight. It was pretty ridiculous. But that was last week. Now we got to move on to this week. We've got 11 fights to take care of. Let's see what you guys are up to here in the chat. Let's see who is in here first today. We've got Papa Chuck in the room saying Andrade is by far the most handsome fighter on the UFC roster. Yeah, you'll get no disagreement from me there. Locks in MMA or no such thing, but I beg to differ when it comes down to this UFC handsome fact. Let's get at it, Unc. I absolutely agree with you, Papa Chuck. Good to see you in here. We got Jenna Marie in the room saying, what's up, Uncle Weezy? Good to see you in here, Jenna. And happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there. I hope those of you guys that are here hanging out late night tonight had a nice dinner with your old lady. And that now you get to enjoy some mixed martial arts conversation here on a Tuesday night, like we always do about this time. But happy Valentine's Day to all the lovers out there today. And we got Lou Betcha in the room saying, oi, Weezy, on a scale of 18 units to 242 units, how many units are you betting on Barnett versus Fat Chase? How many on round 2 KO? And how many on some Yambag Yahtzee? Yeah, that fight was actually announced today. We are going to see Chase Sherman versus Fat Barnett. Wow, but that's the heavyweight division in the UFC. So you've got a lot of guys that really aren't talented at all, really haven't put it together as fighters at all. And we've got a fight this week with Parisian and Pogues. Last week on the main card, we had Parker Porter and Justin Tafa. There's a lot of low-level heavyweights, and I try to stay away from betting on those fights, but that one is going to be an all-timer when it comes to comedy. And then we got Triple C in the room, Chronic Combat Conversations, saying, what's up, boys? And I'm going to be on Chronic Combat Conversations show tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern time, right after the DFS show on Pub Sports Radio that I do with Brady and Monk and Gordo. So check that out tomorrow. We got everybody's favorite Philly capper in the room saying Mushroom MMA, saying, oi, yes, 4 more sleeps until violence. Let's go. And we got him saying hello to Papa Chuck, hello to Jenna, hello to Lou Betcha, hello to Triple C. And we got Go Flamingo in the room saying, what's up to Mushroom MMA? We got Cole Stein saying, oi, Weezy, what's up, Cole? We got Mushroom saying, Flamingo, okay, looking to do better this week. What's up, Mr. Go? And we got Go saying that Papa Chuck, the most handsome of them all, and probably by rights the number 1 contender in 2 weight divisions. Yeah, no shit, dude. That's pretty cool. She is right up there at 115 and 125, right? Really at the top of the heap. Not wearing a belt, though. Alexis Zavada saying, oi, and stack these flapjacks. What's up, Alexis? We got Bob Spikerman's in the room saying, let's try to stack some of these greasy flapjacks this week. Go saying that. Mushroom, same. I had 5 winning parlays that ended with Islam's money line, so that was nice, but most of my other reads were very suspicious, like mine. Cuban Assassin saying, what it do, Weezy? Let's get that cheese. UFC Vegas 69. The only 69 I'm thinking about is that Kim Winslow 69. Happy Valentine's Day. Let's get it. What better vision on Valentine's Day than a 69 with former referee Kim Winslow? Yee. M.A. Laren saying, oh, yes, as you anticipated last week, here we are in the wrong side of this reverse shite sandwich, yet here we go building flapjack skyscrapers. Thank you for your always excellent work. I'm looking forward to your analysis of Bueno, Silva, Fletcher, and Emmers, as they, along with Andrade, look like very interesting bets. Yes, we're going to talk about all those fights for sure. Jared Curry is in the room saying, oh, yes, fun facts. Marcin's last name used to be spelled Preux because he had no chin. Oh, my God. And then, of course, the chin, when I need it to crack, doesn't get cracked against Lins, doesn't get cracked against Roundtree. I mean, unbelievable. Prachnio's fights are very, very frustrating. We got Billy Nicholson in the room saying, Uncle Weezy, what's happening? Hope you're rocking on, my guy. You damn right I am, man. That's what we do on Tuesday nights about this time. Martin saying, got an idea of who the ass shaving of the week this week will be and plan on smashing the line. I will let you guys know at the end of the show, as always. Mans must be cashing bets, coming out, flexing the Hugh Hefner robe. I see you, pimp. What's up, G? Good to see you, Billy. Martin Durmov saying, hint, hint. His name starts with A and ends with J. Fletcher. Now, that is a very, very vague hint, so you guys don't know who it's going to be, but I think that Martin might have a pretty good idea. We got Go Flamingo with a $10 donation. Ring a ding ding, you guys. Keeping the lights on in your Uncle Weezy's studio, saying, before we start, can we get Weezy's general thoughts, breakdown, and score for Volk versus Islam? And how about IV Gate? Okay, I had scored the fight 3-2 for Islam. The fight in the 4th round, where Islam had Volk's back, but Volk was just kind of like landing those short shots. I don't really count those very much because those kind of shots will never end a fight, but you being on your opponent's back and having access to a potential rear naked choke can end a fight. So I don't really count the damage from those short strikes that Volk was doing. So I did have that fight scored 3-2 for Islam. Very close fight. Fantastic, gutty performance by Alexander Volkanovski, up a weight class against a grappler, the quality of Islam Makhachev. But, Islam won a lot of those striking exchanges, too. He landed the bigger shots on the feet. He got some ground control time on, I believe, 9 takedown attempts, and I think he got 4 of them. So I think we saw Islam, do enough to win that fight. As far as the IV goes, there's evidence because there's a mark on the arm. But I don't know if there's any other evidence in terms of people saying that they saw Islam taking an IV. But as of this point, I don't know. I'd like to talk with Patrick, Addicted to Combat, about this, because I know he's a science guy. He's a biology guy. He definitely knows a lot about the human body. I would like to be explained to by somebody why IVs are illegal in this sport. Because my impression of an IV is that since weight cutting is so fucking dangerous, that we wanted to do everything in the power as a commission to keep our fighters safe, that if they do make unsafe weight cuts down to a weight lower than where they should be, why shouldn't they be allowed to rehydrate with an IV if that would make them healthier on fight day? So first of all, this seems like a completely stupid fucking rule where we are throwing out fighter safety in the hopes that fighters who have to do this sport in a way where they have to make money while they're young are gonna somehow, because of these rules, now start fighting up at higher weight classes against bigger dudes because they're not allowed to use an IV. So as far as the IV goes, I don't fucking care. I don't care if he broke the rules because the rules are fucking stupid. But the rules are there, and if that's the case and he did break the rules, then that's fucked up. But once again, I don't care. I would rather see these athletes be allowed to use an IV after cutting weight. And I know that up until recently, they were allowed to. So whatever that's just a dumb fucking rule. Unless, of course, you're trying to get these fighters hurt and you're trying to make them retire younger. You want them dying younger. And I'm sure that there are some people that's how they feel, but not me. So I don't really care if he used an IV. If there is proof that he actually did use one, if anyone has any information to suggest that, since it is against the rules, I think he should probably be stripped of his belt if that's the case. But, like I say, I don't know why IVs are illegal. I thought that would help the fighter, so I don't know why it would be illegal. Jester is saying, what we sipping on, Weezy? So right now we have got a double dry hopped India Pale Ale from the good folks at Saint Laurent Brewing, and this is called the Chaos Dimension, and it is a double dry hopped IPA with Galaxy, Citra, and Matueka hops. An absolutely delicious beverage from a brewery here in the Chicagoland area that really only does fantastic offerings. Saint Laurent Brewery, everybody, unofficial sponsor of Uncle Weezy's Just the Tip. We got Martin Dermont saying, word on the street is Tyson Pedro was eating Dave's hot chicken before the fight. Could be, man. But yeah, he was sick before the fight, according to him. And it was a performance that made the rest of us sick. And you know what? And this is something I said to Propaholic in his Twitter post. He was saying he had extreme diarrhea. Can anyone explain to me when diarrhea isn't extreme? Is there a mild form of diarrhea? Because I've never actually experienced mild diarrhea. The extreme or the explosive that you use before diarrhea is just redundant, and you're being a drama queen. So I just need to get that out there. I need to get that off my chest. So I'm glad you allowed me to do that. Jared Curry saying all those Pedro round 1 finishes make sense now. He hates round 2, yeah, and he fights like shit in round 2. Memphis Tiger saying, why isn't anyone talking about how Volk was talking crap to Islam's corner, saying he was going to get back up, then gets his back taken in the 4th round. Him talking shit cost him his back and the fight. I don't remember that, but then again, I was on the Pub Sports Radio live stream, so I don't have the sound on when I'm watching these pay-per-views because I'm on the live stream with the watch along, so I did not see that, Memphis Tiger, but that is very interesting. Bumbo Clot in the room saying, oi! And we got Bob saying, yeah, I got burned last week on all those unders as well. Also got served betting the over 1.5 for Culebao and the over 1.5 for Parker Porter. My God. Those were bets that I liked as well, too. It was a weird week. Like, we went 6 fights, and there was 1 finish, and it was by Loma Luke Boonme. So it was just one of those weeks. Jared Curdy saying, Chris Barnett, Chase Sherman will be the first featured bout where both combatants feature gout. Yes, that could be, we could see somebody pull out of the fight for gout. Mushroom is not Philly's favorite capper yet. Let him earn it. Lou, stop claiming Philly. You're in the suburbs, nephew, all right? Philly's the big city. You're in the suburbs. So Mushroom is Philly's #1 capper, at least according to Uncle Weezy is. Now, if you want to talk about King of Prussia's #1 capper, well, then, get in line behind Lou Betya because that's the #1 right there. French Potato in the room saying, Weezy, come down to Brazil. I would absolutely love to come down to Brazil. Got to work on my Portuguese. My Spanish, you could drop me in the middle of any Spanish-speaking country, and I would be okay. I would be able to get by. But I don't have any Portuguese. And I know that the language is very similar, and I could probably maybe work my way through a little bit of speaking there, but I'd need some lessons on the Portuguese for sure, French Potato. But appreciate you, man, and I would love to get down to Brazil and see that absolutely beautiful country. Papa Chuck saying, what's up to everybody in the room? There's Lou Betcha. Mushroom saying, I'm trying, Lou. Talk to me after 1,000 shows, says Lou Betcha. It is a bunch of shows, man. Gotta make those 2-minute videos, then you can rack them up quick, man. We got Mushroom saying what's up to everybody here. IV would probably encourage bad weight cuts, probably, but everybody's already making bad weight cuts. So this would just, when you take away the IV, if you think that professional fighters are going to stop making dangerous weight cuts because you don't allow them the IV, one of 2 things is going to happen. Either they're going to get sick from the weight cuts and then be less healthy on fight day, so the product will be worse, or they're going to cheat like Islam might have and then just do the IV with somebody that's not necessarily a licensed to do that kind of work. You got to do it under the table. It's like a backroom abortion, for Christ's sake, but you're doing it with some mob doctor giving you the IV in the bathroom of your hotel room. So, I don't think the IVs encourage bad weight cuts because we already have all these weight cuts, which are incredibly dangerous in this sport. Lou saying, yeah, the IV doesn't seem like it should be illegal. Dana should want his fighters in optimal health post-weigh-in, and I couldn't agree more. Now, does it mean because it's illegal, it's just okay for Islam to do? No, of course it's not okay for him to do it. I'm just saying I don't give a shit about the rule. I don't care if these guys go and take IVs afterwards. If it's in the fighter's best interest, then that's the way it should be done. Don't take the IVs away from them because they're making irresponsible weight cuts, because it's not going to stop them from making irresponsible weight cuts. These guys get in a fucking cage in their underwear and fight other grown men that are trained fighters for a living. Do you think they give a shit about cutting an extra 6 pounds that would be considered dangerous by most doctors? No, they're professional fucking fighters. So let them have their IVs. John Smith is in the room saying, I have PTSD from betting William Knight finish only when he fought Devin Clark. I'm pretty sure, John Smith, that I was on that finish only prop as well and got my fucking ass shaved on that one. It hurt. It hurt badly, but that's part of the game that we play here. Jester saying IVs would make fighters cut harder and deeper because they can recover quicker. It's actually for fighters' safety. Maybe it is, man. I understand that rule is meant to encourage fighters to make more responsible decisions regarding their weight cuts. Does it actually make fighters make more responsible decisions regarding their weight cuts? No, it doesn't. That mark could simply be shadows and lighting. Yeah, that's the extent of the evidence. But IV diuretics usage can help mask the presence of PEDs by diluting urine. Yes, absolutely. That is a very good point, Billy. True, saying that picture was from well before the weigh-in. It's a promo photo from where I understand. Okay. Oi, howdy from Mount Rushmore, says Justin J. What's up, dude? Papa Chuck with the shit emoji. We got Pink Floyd saying also IVs hide the effect of doping and do give their own enhancements. Got it. Papa Chuck, what's up, Big Papa? Let's see here. We got oh my God, your grandfather died from explosive diarrhea. Well, maybe that was actually explosive diarrhea then, or maybe he actually exploded and it wasn't the actual diarrhea. Either way, my condolences, Dave Crack. And Josh Locke saying, oh, what's good, Weezy? What's up, Josh? Will Tyson Pedro ever be able to improve his cardio or his MMA career effectively over? He's getting old now. He had 3 years off. He had a botched knee surgery. And he's not, you don't get cardio late in your career. So, but Tyson's still a very potent finisher and a very explosive boxer. So, he's not done. He just needs to fight with some level of urgency, which he didn't. Lou Bet, yeah, those are fighting words. We got Memphis saying Pedro was contagious because I got sick watching him. Yeah, you and me both, man. Hit Loma plus 1,300 by submission, half a unit, but plus 650. Dude, that's a huge win, Josh. Congratulations, man. Ring a ding ding. That's awesome. We got Just My 2 Cents saying, what's up, Weezy? What's up, Just My 2 Cents? Oh, shit. Just My 2 Cents in the house, says Lou. We got Cuban Assassin saying IVs can't be used because they dilute the biological passport in your body and alter the blood test of the substances they are looking for. The bag itself has residue in it. Got it. Gorilla saying, hola, tío Weezy. ¿Cómo estás, mi amigo? Estoy bien, ¿y tú? We got, what's up, player there? We got True saying, phlebotomy classes are like 2 weeks. Okay. Josh, UG, what's up? So, guys, let's get into it here. Let's start with the very first fight of the night. Start breaking down these fights here. We've got Juancamilo Ronderos at plus 245 going up against Clayton Carpenter, minus 285 on Clay Carpenter. We got the fight doesn't go to decision. Juiced up for a flyweight fight all the way up to minus 220. So let me get my notes here. Oh boy, we got to go through 12 pages of notes. Okay, so let's start talking about Clayton Carpenter here. Clay's only 26 years old. He's 6-0 as a pro, and he's 6-1 as an amateur. In addition to that, Clay has been training since the age of 5. Clay was a junior Golden Gloves champion, a 4-time national Muay Thai champion, a 4-time Pancration champion, where he once beat Aaron Pico back in 2009. And think about that. That's 14 years ago. And Clayton Carpenter's 26 years ago. So like Aaron Pico, who's a lifetime martial artist, so is Clay Carpenter. And Clay Carpenter's been fighting some of the best kids in the world since he was 12 years old. So, yeah, he's got a long history of combat sports going back to the age of 5 when he started training. So his dad took him around the world to fight as a kid. So combat sports has been this kid's entire life. He trains out of the MMA lab in Arizona. In the Medina fight, which was his debut, Clay got a clean 29-28 unanimous decision win. He won the first with his wrestling and top control. He won the second by mixing in his stand-up with his wrestling. And he got some late takedowns to win that round too. He got outstruck in the third because Medina started landing several calf kicks on Clay. That really bothered him, but he wound up winning a very clear 29-28 in that fight by winning the first 2 rounds convincingly. In the Clem fight, Clay missed weight. He came in at 128.6 pounds in that one, but he went out there, he got taken down, but went for a knee bar immediately and got it. The next fight against Kealohi, he threw 2 consecutive jab head kick combos. So it was just the jab with the head kick right behind it. And on both of them, they landed. And the second one that he landed on Kealohi, slept him violently. Very nasty knockout with that head kick. On Dana White's Contender Series, Clay lost the first round to Kyrez. He got dropped and outstruck in general by the taller, longer, and more experienced opponent in Kyrez. But Clay's right eye was all fucked up when he came out in the second round. But he turned it around from there on out, and he cleanly won the last 2 rounds to win a 29-28 unanimous decision and get the contract. This kid's well-rounded. He's experienced for his age, and he appears to have very few weaknesses. But he's still got a long way to go. We still have to see him at a UFC level. We got to still see him against UFC level competition. And we got to see if the wrestling defense holds up. We got to see if he can make the right decisions against the right opponents. So there's definitely a long way to go for Clay Carpenter, and there's still a lot of missing information in terms of how he's going to do at this level. But when you look at the background, when you look at how well-rounded he is, when you look at how long he's been doing this, and that he's been, national champion at a young age in a bunch of different sports, this kid is very clearly very serious about his MMA career. On the other side, we got Juancamilo Ronderos. And Juancamilo is small even for a flyweight. He's 5'4". He's only got a 64.5-inch reach. He's a southpaw, and he definitely prefers to wrestle. He's training at Extreme Couture and has only 5 pro fights with 56 minutes of pro cage time. And he's coming off a suspension. He pissed hot for Khusein, which was wild because Ronderos accepted the fight on very, very, very short notice. So he took the fight, I think, on Wednesday night and was due to weigh in on Friday. And I talked about this on Stat Diggers. And I said this on Stat Diggers, that I don't do impressions, right? I just don't. But every once in a while, I find an impression that really suits my skills as an impressionist, right? And that I feel like I can pull off with enough competency to say I can do impressions at the right place and at the right time. So I wanted to do an impression for you guys, which will probably be the only impression I do this year on Just the Tip with Uncle Weezy. But this will be my impression of Juancamilo Ronderos accepting the David Dvorak fight on the phone on short notice. All right. So he's got the phone, and they ask him, hey, can you come and take this fight on Saturday versus David Dvorak? And he goes like this, right? Yeah, I'll take the fight. That was Ronderos taking the fight, you guys. Cocaine only stays in your system for 72 hours. So if he accepted this fight on Wednesday night, weighed in on Friday morning, and then pissed in a cup on Saturday after the fight, it meant that when he took this fight, he was actually high on cocaine. So we don't know what this kid is going to look like on a full camp, knowing that the fight is coming up a month in advance, maybe making some better decisions, maybe not doing blow the week of the fight. So it's going to be interesting to see what this kid brings now that he's got the full camp, that he's ready to really make a UFC debut, having prepared for it fully. But Juancamilo was 9-0 as an amateur. So he's also one of these guys that has a deceiving pro career, as he's very experienced, just like Carpenter, but just a lot of that experience came before he became a professional. JR wrestles constantly, Ronderos, I mean. He's small. He doesn't have much reach, so his striking really isn't up to par. In his first 2 pro fights, he spammed takedowns, broke his opponents with wrestling, finishing the second fight by a rear naked choke. In WXC championship fight against Elliott, he got dominated in the wrestling exchanges by the bigger and stronger opponent, but he got a very unusual armbar with his legs. So basically, he was trying to sweep. He kind of got into side control with his opponent on all fours, and his opponent's left arm was between his 2 legs, and he got it trapped in a way where he wound up snapping his arm right here between his legs with a very unusual armbar. But up until that point, Ronderos was absolutely losing the fight. And then he showed that he had a hard time dealing with bigger wrestlers in that fight. Then came the Eric Shelton fight, which was a 5-round fight for the WXC championship. And in that fight, he got out-wrestled and out-controlled by the bigger Shelton pretty much the whole fight. but somehow he managed to win a split decision for landing like short peppering shots that did no damage while he was being controlled. Picture the Makhachev-Volkanovski fight in round 4 where Makhachev's got his back for 3 minutes, but Volkanovski's landing those short little shots. Those rounds were being scored for Ronderos. But the problem with that is that every damn round, Ronderos was getting taken down and getting his back taken. And then he was just landing these short shots over his shoulder. But for some reason, despite the fact that he spent 20 of the 25 minutes of the fight being controlled, he got awarded the decision. So, yikes, man. I mean, this guy Ronderos, I mean, it's really hard to know where he's at. I mean, even in the fights that he's won, he's looked like really bad. So I don't think he's ready for this level. You can make an easy case that the Shelton fight was 50-45 or 49-46 Shelton. But it is what it is. Look, Ronderos took that Dvorak fight on less than 3 days' notice, most likely accepted the fight mid-coke bender because he wound up testing positive right after the fight. So that performance doesn't leave us much to go on. He got clipped a couple of times on the feet, panic wrestled unsuccessfully and reversed, and Dvorak got to his back and choked him out. So Clay Carpenter is younger by a little over a year. He's 2 inches taller. He's got a 3.5-inch reach advantage. He's more experienced as a pro by one fight, and he started combat sports when he was 5 years old. Clay is most likely better everywhere in this spot. However, if he lets Ronderos wrestle successfully, get on top and land ground and pound, he could make this greasier than it could be, than it should be, actually. I still saw enough from Carpenter's wrestling on tape to be pretty sure he doesn't get out-wrestled by the smaller Ronderos. So I see this being a unanimous decision win for Clay Carpenter here. Ronderos, it's definitely a show-me spot for Ronderos here, and I don't think he's quite ready for this level yet. Let me see here real quick. Daz Dillinger saying that impression was spot on. Yeah, I did that impression on Stat Diggers yesterday, but we didn't have a lot of people watching. It wasn't our usual time slot, and I didn't want you guys to miss what could be my only impression of the year. But I appreciate you, Daz. XA Money saying, Weezy, oi, what's up, dude? We got Carpenter third round decision, says Mushroom. Gorilla Gamble saying, I make the thumbnail graphics for Adam Martin and Big Marcel's weekly podcast show. Let me know if you need any graphics, Unc. I got you. You too, Lou and Mushroom. I appreciate that, Gorilla. I'll talk to you about that because I got to tell you, man, I need help with my graphics. Spreadsheets just don't do it. Oh, and I didn't even bring the spreadsheet back up. So there's the spreadsheet, but we really don't have any stats for these guys, so you didn't miss anything here. But if you want these stats, as usual, they are available on Uncle Weezy's Patreon. Go over to Patreon, sign up, and you will be getting these stats well before Just the Tip every single week. The next fight that we're going to talk about is AJ Fletcher versus Themba Gorimbo. And we've got Fletcher here as a minus 265 favorite. The comeback on Gorimbo plus 225. Fight doesn't go to decision, juiced up to minus 170. So I don't know what Themba Gorimbo is doing here. He just doesn't appear to be UFC level at all. He's coming from promotion where in EFC in South Africa, where most of the guys that we see from EFC wash out immediately and have no success. Some guys that come to mind are Garrett Soldier Boy McClellan. We got Dalcha Lungiambula, JP Bays. Most recently, though, Dricus Duplessis and Cameron Simon are coming out of a really good camp in South Africa called CIS or something like that, CIT. But very good camp down there where Dricus and Cameron are two South African fighters who are making a very big impact in the UFC. But here we've got Themba Gorimbo, who's already 32 years old, and 13 professional fights only at the age of 32. And only 13 fights in an almost 10-year career. So I don't know what Themba's doing here. This definitely does look like a get-right spot for AJ Fletcher. Now, Fletcher is a young prospect fighting out of Louisiana. He's new to the UFC game. He's explosive. He's well-rounded, former athlete. He played football, baseball, and soccer growing up, but he transitioned to MMA when he didn't get the chance to play college football. He's almost 26 years old. He trains out of Gladiators Academy, and he's got a 9-2 pro record. He's got 8 of those 9 wins are coming inside the distance, and he's an equal opportunity finisher with 4 knockouts and 4 submissions. He's small for the weight class, but he's bricked up with muscle, and he's got big power. In the Golden fight, he smashed Wesley with the first punch he threw, which is a straight counter right off a head kick attempt from Golden that absolutely melted him. AJ got on top, landed ground and pound, passed him Mount, landed more elbows, then locked up the arm triangle, and that was all she wrote for the Golden fight. In the Juarez fight, he struck well at distance with Juarez. Right when Juarez got comfy and started landing shots, AJ landed a blast double leg. He passed to half guard, passed to Mount, got on his back with hooks in, and then floated back and forth between Mount and back mounts, and he locked in another arm triangle in that spot there. On DWCS, he melted Damiani with a jump knee in the first. He landed a takedown as well, but he didn't show much before the spectacular knee. Definitely earned a contract, though, with that finish. Next up was Matt Semmelsberger in the UFC. AJ won the first round cleanly by getting an early takedown and finishing the round on top. His wrestling game is basic, but it's effective. Blast doubles that look like football tackles, and he passes guard and he lands ground and pound, and he's heavy on top. So it's a good part of his game that he, even though he doesn't have any wrestling background at all, he's using the parts of wrestling that are functional for MMA, and he's using that football tackling style that he's used to by playing football in order to get those blast doubles. And it works, man. A blast double is very much the same as a football tackle. So, some of these guys that play football, they can really learn that technique and learn how to use it very effectively, despite the fact that they don't have a background in wrestling. Let's see. His striking looked good in the second round against Semi, but his striking looked good in the second, but Semi was bigger and longer and did a little more work and got some top control time at the end of the round that sealed it for him. So it was 19-19 going into the third, and then AJ started slowing down. Semi got a takedown in the third and got around 3 minutes of control time, and then he opened AJ up with a big elbow. And AJ scrambled, and he got back up with 30 seconds left, realized he was down, and he tried to finish the fight, but came up a little short. He definitely slowed down late in that fight. Next up for Fletcher was Anga Lusa. Lusa had a fantastic first round, easily won it on the feet. He out-kickboxed AJ from range. In the second, AJ got so close to finishing Anga, though. I think AJ finishes pretty much anyone but Anga there with the shots that he was landing. And a lot of refs would have stopped that fight as well, as AJ was flat out landing bombs. But AJ emptied the tank going for the finish, and Lusa's one tough son of a bitch. So he wound up getting through that absolute blast there from Fletcher, and then Fletcher was done because he emptied the tank trying to finish. And I believe the ref was Beltran, who's a really bad ref as well, and he very rarely stops fights when he should. But Lusa is next level tough, and it probably was good that he didn't stop that fight, because Lusa not only got hurt badly, but he came out in the third and he was ready to go. And he won that third round cleanly. So Anga even came close to finishing AJ with ground and pound in that third round. So that's like the UFC career for Fletcher. Now, Themba Gorimbo, he's a big, long, rangy striker. He throws long strikes. He tries to keep people on the end of his punches and kicks. He's 6 feet tall, a 76.5-inch reach. So he's going to have almost a 10-inch reach advantage here. Gorimbo definitely looks to mix in the wrestling in every fight, but his takedowns aren't great, and he tends to get reversed on sloppy takedown attempts, and he gets stuck on his back and against the cage for long periods of time. He fought Gina Mazzani's brother. In the Mazzani fight, Themba looked good at range. He threw long strikes and also had some blast combos where he was kind of like bringing his feet with him, where he was, throwing the heavy strike and then taking the other step forward and bringing his feet with him and just throwing big strikes as he walked forward, not unlike Derek Lewis. But none of it was landing square on Mazzani. Mazzani decided, I don't want this guy throwing bombs at me, so he just put him up against the cage, and he held him there for the whole first round. There was nothing that Themba could do about it. And then Gorimbo got slept in the second with the left hand he didn't see while he was engaged in a wild striking exchange in the pocket. So, you're getting slept by Gina Mazzani's brother in the South African regional scene. That's not good. And then let's see. In the Michael fight, he got taken down, but he eventually got back up and finished with elbows. but the tape doesn't show the finish. Like, some of this tape from EFC in South Africa is so bad, and you wonder what the hell is going on there when they show highlight reels of fights that show the parts of the fight where nothing happens, and then they cut to Gorimbo jumping up on the cage and waving to the crowd, but neglect to show the finish, how it happened. So, I mean, that fight that he won against Luke Michael by knockout, we've got to just take their word for it, because what they show us is Gorimbo losing the fight. Who knows, man, what's going on here? In the Karam fight, he got rocked in the first and he lost that round. Then he got taken down in the second, was controlled for a while, but then he locked up a triangle choke from the bottom. Ferreira, the Henderson-Ferreira fight, he got controlled for all 3 rounds and literally didn't have 10 seconds of that fight where he did anything of any value. And then he beat somebody named Julio Rafael Rodriguez via unanimous decision. He got takedowns in all 3 rounds, a bunch of top control and a ground and pound, but this guy Rodriguez was absolutely horrible. He offered nothing there. So Themba's going to be much bigger. He's 2 inches taller. He's got a 9.5-inch reach advantage, but Fletcher is 6 years younger, and he's got a similar level of pro experience, and he's fought the better guys by far. Gorimbo has the superior conditioning, but Fletcher is more durable and more powerful in the stand-up. I think both guys can have success in the grappling exchanges, but I just think AJ's stronger, and he'll win more top control minutes here because he should be the better wrestler. I'm not entirely sure what Gorimbo is doing in the UFC. He doesn't have a great record. He's lost to some questionable competition, and even in the fights he's winning, he shows a tendency to lose minutes up until he gets a finish. So I think AJ finishes this dude in the first or the second round. AJ inside the distance will be a bet for me this week. I'm just waiting to see where it opens on the rest of the books. But yeah, I'm going to be picking AJ Fletcher to win this one by first round knockout. So let me get these picks up here for you guys too, so that you guys can follow along with me in my picks here. So, Juancamilo Ronderos versus Clayton Carpenter. I'm going to be picking Carpenter to win by decision here. And then AJ Fletcher versus Themba Gorimbo. We got Fletcher. That's a pretty wild picture there of Fletcher. I don't know why he went with that picture. He's a handsome kid, and that looks like he was surprised that somebody was taking a picture of him. But yeah, first round knockout, we're going to say for Fletcher here. The next fight that I have on my notes is Nazim Sadykhov versus Evan Elder. However, I believe the next fight that we're going to talk about is going to be Ovince St. Preux versus Philipe Lins. This is the third fight on the card, so we're going to talk about this one. I took no notes on this fight, and I watched no tape on this fight. I don't care about this fight. 10 of Philipe Lins's last 13 scheduled fights didn't happen. Ovince St. Preux's last 2 fights were canceled due to total lack of interest. And the Mauricio Shogun Hua versus Ovince St. Preux fight was a middle finger to mixed martial arts fans everywhere. I don't care. I just don't care about this fight. I don't know why anybody else does. I'm not going to watch this fight, but just in the interest of me giving you some kind of analysis here, let's look at my prop template. And let's look at the under bets, as we see a lot of green over here on the left side of the screen, which means a lot of these analytics, are underpriced here for these violence lines. -130 fight doesn't go to decision, +100 for the under 2.5, +175 for the under 1.5. My favorite line here would be this under 2.5 at +100, 9% underpriced according to the benchmark for the division. The benchmark is 59.03%. That's what percent of 205-pound fights that are scheduled for 3 rounds finish under 2.5 rounds. But this line is only 50%, so we're getting a 9% discount there. In addition to that, 16 of their 23 combined UFC fights have finished under 2.5 rounds. That's almost 70%, while the price of the line is only 50%. And these guys actually finish at about a 10.53% rate higher than what the division does. 69.57%, minus 59.03%. So it's a trifecta bet. If you actually think that one of these guys is capable of finishing a fight at this point in their career, then maybe these violence betting lines being underpriced are where you should put your money. But in terms of picking a winner amongst these two guys, people say Ovince St. Preux is old, but so is Philipe Lins. Philipe Lins, has a 17-and-a-half-year career, and he's only fought 20 times. This guy barely shows up to fight once a year. And then you got a guy like St. Preux, who's been fighting 14 years, and he's got 42 fights. So St. Preux, this is something, he's there every 4 months. He's ready to fight. He shows up. He's ready to go. The guy doesn't get hurt. He doesn't fucking pull out of fights last minute. The guy's a professional. He shows up. He goes out there and he fights. Philipe Lins does the exact opposite. He says he's going to fight, and then he doesn't show up. So I'm not going to waste my time analyzing a fight that I don't care about, that probably won't happen and will probably suck for 3 rounds if it does. But maybe these violence lines are underpriced. And as far as a prediction, I don't think you should feel good picking either one of these guys because I think St. Preux is past it, even though he's still not quite 40 yet. And even he's got 25 UFC fights, Well, Lins in the last 5 years has shown up for 3. So, yeah, I guess I'll go with the power of Ovince St. Preux here. We'll say Ovince St. Preux by decision. Yeah, whatever, dude. Who fucking cares? That fight is absolutely awful, and I'm not talking about it. Next fight, though, should be interesting. It is going to be, St. Preux plus 175, Philipe Lins minus 205. Who the fuck is laying minus 205 on Philipe Lins? You're not betting on Lins. You're betting against St. Preux if you're laying that price, and that's not a good strategy there. So leave this money line alone unless you're on the – well, no, don't even bet on either of these guys. Please, guys. Please. This is 1-800-GAMBLER. Don't bet on this fight. Both of these guys are past it. It looks like neither one of them really cares, and you're counting on one of these guys to care enough to win. I don't think – this one might be a draw just because nobody's good enough to win it. Let's move on to the next one. It's going to be Jamaal Emmers going up against Khusein Ashkabov here. Emmers is plus 110. Ashkabov minus 130. Fight doesn't go to decision. Sitting at minus 130. So we've got these stats up. Once again, we've got another fighter that's making a fucking debut, so the stats almost mean nothing. But let me get my notes up here. All right. And okay, so let's talk about Jamaal Emmers first. Jamaal Emmers is a 10-year veteran of the sport. He's got 24 fights, over 250 minutes in the pro cage, and he's got great size for the featherweight division at 5'10" with a 74-inch reach. He fights out of Pinnacle MMA. He's an okay finisher at around 54% for his career, and he's never finished a UFC win. Jamaal's good everywhere. He's got good size. He's got good conditioning. He's got good wrestling. He's got good striking. The upside was definitely there as he's well-rounded and he's a plus athlete. However, now that he's 33 years old, coming off over a year layoff after getting his knee torn up by Pat Sabatini, and he's never shown the ability to use his well-rounded skill set to craft winning game plans. At this point, I really have to wonder if it's too late for Jamaal to use his athletic gifts and start fighting smart. We saw his piss-poor fight IQ on full display versus Chikadze when he didn't even attempt a takedown until 7 minutes into the fight. And he got that takedown easily. Jamaal got pieced up for the entire first round by Giga. Got a takedown in the second, but he actually wound up getting swept by Giga Chikadze. The second was close. Jamaal picked up the pace late in the second. And in the third, while Giga gassed, Jamaal actually started putting it on him. He lost by split decision mostly because he didn't mix in his wrestling. That was a fight that he should have won. Jamaal Emmers should have beaten Giga Chikadze, but he didn't. And as a result of that momentum, Giga went on like a 6 or 7 fight winning streak after, Jamaal pissed away what should have been a very easy win for him. So this guy is very difficult to trust, Jamal Emmers. Then he beat a 135-pounder in Vince Cachero. He outlanded him 103-76. He outcontrolled him 347 seconds to 28 seconds. And then he decided to go for a toe hold in a 50-50 position with a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt in Pat Sabatini. That mistake not only cost him the fight, but it cost him a serious knee injury that he required surgery for, and it cost him over a year of inactivity. When it comes to Khusein Ashkabov, Hussein's only a 28-year-old fighter who has a spotless 23-0 record. He's got almost 11 years as a pro, which means he took his first pro fight at the age of 17. He fights out of Bang Tao Muay Thai, and he's also spent some time at American Top Team. He has just as many fights and time in the pro cage in comparison to Emmers, but he has 100 less minutes of cage time, and he hasn't fought anywhere near the same level of competition in comparison to Jamal, who's actually fought real fighters. Not one guy in Hussein's resume is even a marginal regional scene fighter. 23 of Hussein's pro wins are against complete cans for the most part. Let's see. Versus Negrea, he reversed an early takedown attempt. He passed him out, landed a lot of ground and pound, and he got a belly down armbar to finish the fight. Versus Cyprian, he slept him early with a jump knee. Versus Gay, he got a takedown 1 minute in. He passed to side control, and he finished with a heel hook. The fight against Donovan Desme was a close, sloppy fight where Hussein got the nod, but he was sloppy and didn't find ways to easily win minutes against an inferior opponent. Versus Teixeira, he got a second-round heel hook after dominating the exchanges prior to that with good wrestling and good striking. Versus Filho, Hussein landed 2 heavy calf kicks early. He dropped Filho, landed ground and pound. He got a high-amplitude suplex as a mat return, and then he got to a front choke series, and he finished with the gilly. So there's a lot to like about both guys here. Emmers is taller. He's longer. He's probably the better striker here, and he's fought the way, way better brand of competition. While Hussein's undefeated, he's well-rounded. He's over 5 years younger than Jamal, and he hasn't shown bad fight IQ yet. And his wrestling and his submission grappling should be better than Jamal's, who hasn't shown the IQ to know when to go to his striking or his grappling. It's a hard fight to cap because Emmers is coming off a 1-year-plus layoff after having knee surgery. And while Ashkabov has had a 3-year layoff, we don't know how he looks against actual pro MMA fighters. I'll go with the youth and upside of Ashkabov here and pick him to win by second-round submission. But I want to show you guys something here. I'll save these picks, and I want to go to Ashkabov's record. We see him here. He's 23-0, right? Last 2 wins are against Yusuf Hadi Visingayev, 3-0, and Arbi Movzarov, 7-0. This fight was scheduled for 2 rounds. 2-round fight was his last fight in 2020. Now, a 3-0 opponent, so you're like, okay, at least the guy's undefeated. Well, his 3 wins are against an 0-1 guy, an 0-0 guy, and an 0-0 guy. So that's Hussein Ashkabov's most recent win. Now, you're like, Arbi Movzarov, though, Weezy, he's 7-0. So that's got to be a good win. First round by Anaconda choke? Yeah, no. Arbi Movzarov has 7 wins, and not one guy that he's beaten has a professional mixed martial arts win. 0-4, 0-3, NA, 0-0, 0-1, 0-0, 0-0. I mean, can you fucking believe this? This guy is supposed to be in the UFC, and he's fighting peanut vendors with no mixed martial arts records, and they think it's fair to put a guy with no mixed martial arts experience in there against a guy who's 22-0. So for these guys who are like, yeah, this guy Ashkabov, he's a badass. He's 23-0. No. I mean, his best win is against Donovan Desme, because Desme actually had some names on his resume. Desme's been in there against Lucas Rajecki. He's been in there against Mason Jones. He's been in there. He was scheduled to fight Paddy Pimblett and Jai Herbert at one point. Aiden Lee, Martin Stapleton. You know, he's fought some real names. And that's like the fight, the Desmay fight. I think I've got some notes here on that. Ashkabov. Yeah. Let's see. Desmay. Here's the Desmay notes. Versus Desmay, he got an early knockdown off of a caught kick, and he got on top in the first. He let him up with 3:20 left. He went for a takedown unsuccessfully at 145, and he got his back taken. Desmay stayed on his back for the rest of the round. Not much happened in the second round, but Khusein did more, landed more. He got a takedown, but Desmay looked tired and didn't do much. So it's I got it 1-1 after 2. Khusein got a huge takedown off of a shitty spinning kick from Desmay that got caught around the 3-minute mark. The ref stood him up at 140. Ashkabov failed on 2 straight takedown attempts and was so sloppy he wound up under Desmay until the ref stood them up again. Close fight. Khusein got the nod. That's the best opponent that he faced, and he barely beat him 2-1. And that's the only guy on his entire resume that's even could be called somewhat close to UFC level. So this is a fight that you should not have strong opinions on. There is a ton of missing information here. What's Ashkabov going to look like after a 3-year layoff? What's Ashkabov going to look like against a real fighter who's not a taxi driver taking fights on short notice with only wins coming off of guys with 0 mixed martial arts fights or 0 mixed martial arts wins? So even though I'm picking Ashkabov to win this fight, I'm not going to be touching this one. And I think that this is extremely greasy here. Jamal Emmers, some of the worst fight IQ I've ever seen in the UFC. And, you know, there's no good in being well-rounded, you know, if you can't choose when to use what skills, there's no point in being well-rounded. You might as well just be a pure striker, because you can't get takedowns when it matters because you don't know when to shoot the takedowns. So, make picks. What the fuck? All right, there we go. So we're picking Ashkabov. We're picking him by second round submission. And there we go. Did I even make a pick for St. Preux? Yes, I did. Okay, good. All right, next fight is going to be Lina Lansberg at plus 375 going up against Mayra Bueno Silva, minus 500. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 105. All right, so Lansberg Silva. Let me get my notes up for this one. All right. Lina Lansberg is a 40-year-old Muay Thai striker with solid stand-up, a good clinch game where she loves to land elbows, and sometimes she mixes in the wrestling and can be very heavy on top when she does. Her biggest problem thus far in the UFC is being out-controlled by superior wrestlers. She can't get off her back when she's taken down. A whopping 74% of Lina's 135 minutes in the UFC cage has been spent in control time positions, and Lina's winning about 38% of those positions. There's quite a divergence between Lina's control time numbers in her wins and in her losses. In Lina's wins, she's getting 49% control time and allowing only 26% to her opponents. She's gotten 5 takedowns in her wins, and her opponents have only gotten 3. So she's winning the control time and the takedown battles in her wins. When Lina loses, she's being out-controlled by her opponents 62.2% to 11.4%. And her opponents have 15 takedowns in Lina's losses, and Lina has 0 takedowns. So in other words, when Lina loses fights, she's getting out-controlled and out-wrestled. Lina got a nice win against Macy Chiasson. She lost the first round, getting controlled against the fence for the entire round, but Lina came out in the second. She got a takedown, a couple of minutes of ground control time to even it up 19-19 after 2. And then Lina had a great third round against Macy. She got a takedown and won the control time battle, 4 minutes to 30 seconds. And she outstruck her 15-7 to win a clear 29-28 unanimous decision. Versus Pannie Kianzad, Lina lost a 29-28 unanimous decision where Pannie did much better work in the first and third rounds, both in the striking and the grappling exchanges. The second was close, but Lina landed a knockdown, so I had it 29-28 Kianzad, but it was a clear win for Pannie. In the Carol Hossa fight, which is the most recent fight for Lina, we had a close first round. Lina landed a knockdown early in the round and got about a minute of clinch control time, but Rosa wound up getting a takedown and about 3 minutes of control time at the end of the round. I had a 10-9 Lina because of the knockdown, but it was a close round. Rosa clearly won the second round and the third round with wrestling and control time. But Rosa got a point deducted in the second for an illegal knee. I scored the fight 28-28, but two judges had it 29-27 Rosa. So they had Rosa winning all 3 rounds, and then the point deduction made it 29-27. But one of the judges had it 28-28 like I had, but that first round was very close. It could have went either way. But Mayra Bueno Silva is a powerful Muay Thai striker who has a very dangerous submission game. She tries to frustrate her opponents with striking and force them to shoot a takedown, and then she goes to work from her guard trying to lock up an armbar. The problem is Mayra doesn't wrestle at all. She's never completed a takedown in her 7 UFC fights and 69 minutes in the UFC cage. Mayra has had great fights in the UFC, going to war with Montana De La Rosa, Manon Fiorot, Wu Yanan, Jillian Robertson. 3 of her 4 UFC wins are inside the distance by armbar. She wound up having a draw with Montana De La Rosa because she had a point taken for grabbing the fence in the first. Montana got a couple of takedowns and over 5 minutes of control time, but Silva did excellent work in the clinch and at distance. Silva finished Robertson, Barella, and Stephanie Egger with arm bars from guard, and her only decision win in the UFC was over Wu Yanan, and Wu actually won a round off of her. So in summary, Lansberg is more experienced as a pro and in the UFC. She's a solid Muay Thai striker just like Silva is. I see large portions of this fight happening in the clinch and both ladies having success there. At distance, it's also going to be close. I see Mayra being a bit meaner in the clinch and standing, but Silva slows down late in fights, and if she can't keep a pace for the full 15, I could see Lina making this really greasy. And Mayra having lost 90% of her control time positions she's been in thus far in the UFC. So that's a very bad recipe for success against a fighter like Lina Lansberg, who has had her worst performances against good wrestlers and ladies who can dominate control time positions. I'm picking Silva to win by decision, but I have a 1-unit tracked bet on Lina Lansberg's money line at plus 320. And here's what I'm talking about, right? Lansberg's fights are taking place in control time positions 28 plus 46% of the time. So that's 74% of her fights are taking place in control time positions. She wins about 37.71% of those control time positions. Now, Mayra Bueno Silva is about 41% of the time in control time positions. But we saw that Lina, in her losses, her opponents get 60% control time and she gets 10. Mayra Bueno Silva is yet to out-control an opponent. So the way that Lina loses fights, Mayra doesn't win that way. As a matter of fact, Mayra's a pretty shitty minute winner overall. We can see right here that Mayra absorbs way more distance strikes per minute than she lands, and her opponents throw a lot more volume than she does because she slows down late in fights. Now, Lansberg's also getting outlanded at distance because she's low volume as well, but she's not quite as low volume as Bueno Silva is in comparison to her opponents. So, I do see this being close on the feet, and I see it being close in the clinch. And since Lansberg has attempted 18 takedowns in 10 fights, and Bueno Silva's attempted 1 in 7 fights, I could also see a world where Lina Lansberg gets takedowns and wins minutes by just staying out of the submissions of Mayra Bueno Silva. And Lina's very heavy on top. So even though I'm picking Mayra Bueno Silva to win the fight, minus 500 is absolutely absurd for a line on Mayra Bueno Silva. I would bet her to win by submission, you guys, and just bring it down because that's her That's her path. She's losing rounds to Wu Yanan. Okay? Let that sink in for a second. Let me just repeat that. Losing rounds to Wu Yanan, and she's not affiliated with the Wu-Tang Clan. That was my mistake. Wu Yanan has no affiliation with the Wu-Tang Clan. So for those of you who are saying like, well, okay, so what? She lost a fucking round to somebody that's affiliated with the Wu-Tang Clan. It's not the case. I was wrong about that. I'm sorry. But I'm not wrong about the fact that she lost a round to Wu Yanan. So don't lay minus 500 on somebody that loses a round to Wu Yanan, who's a 125er. This fight's taking place at 135. Silva's a 125er. She's coming up a weight class. She's fighting a more experienced opponent who's fought the better level of competition and who's just as good as her in the clinch and at the distance striking range. So don't lay that juice on Mayra Bueno Silva. It is far, far too much. I also have a 2.5 unit bet on the over 2.5 rounds for this fight at minus 110. That line is long gone right now, but it's still there at like minus 160, minus 170. And my prop template still has that as a trifecta bet. All right. That pick is going to be Mayra Bueno Silva by decision. And I like the over 2.5 for this fight as well. All right. Beautiful. Next fight is going to be, we didn't do Ashkabov, Sadykhov versus Elder. That is the next fight that we're going to talk about here. All right. So let me get up to my notes because they changed the order here. All right. And there is Nazim. Okay, cool. So let's get this up here. Evan Elder plus 155 going up against Nazim Sadykhov minus 180. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 130. Let's see here. Let me see here. All right, you guys. Let's move on. Talk about this Sadykhov Elder fight. Once again, we don't have any stats for either one of these guys because they're both making their debut. Elder's not really making his debut, but he made his debut on short notice against Preston Parsons up a weight class. So Nazim Sadykhov is a 28-year-old southpaw. He trains out of Weidman Longo in New York. He only has 8 pro fights, and he's been a pro for about 4 years now. He's finished 6 of his 7 pro wins. He's got 5 knockouts and 1 submission. He started training martial arts at the age of 4, and he's wanted to be in the UFC since he was 10. So this has been a lifelong journey for Nazim. Originally from Azerbaijan, his home is now in the U.S. Nazim lost his pro debut after getting his back taken, and he got rear naked choked in the first. Since then, he's been on a 7-fight win streak that included a first-round knockout via an overhand left in the first versus Bill Dill. Versus Stump, he landed something I didn't see that stunned Trent. He got to a dominant position, and he finished with ground and pound. In the Harris fight, he got his back taken in the first, got close to being armbarred, and he lost the round on control time. He had a better second round after he landed something on the feet that looked like it hurt Elijah, but I didn't see what it was. He got on top, he passed him out, got to Elijah's back, and was close to finishing with a rear naked choke. He got a takedown with 3:45 left in the third round, and then he finished the round on top. That was a unanimous decision victory for him. Nazim shaved Joe Borshig's ass after landing a nice right hook and finishing him with ground and pound after Joe was dropped. On Dana White's Contender Series versus Ahmed Hassanzada, Nazim landed a spinning heel kick to the body that dropped Hassanzada, and he did good work on top until he got sloppy with about 1.5 minutes left in the round trying to take Ahmad's back, and he wound up getting reversed. Nazim got back up and he fended off takedowns until the end of the round. Ahmad was a bloody mess after the first, though. Nazim showed solid defensive and cage wrestling in the second as he fended off several takedown attempts from Ahmad while landing Travis-style Brown elbows and landing another big body kick at the end of the round. And then Nazim showed a very good gas tank in the third. He pressured Ahmad. He landed big shots before eventually sleeping him with a right 2 minutes into the round. Evan Elder, on the other hand, is only 25 years old. He's got 8 professional fights, with his only loss being up a weight class on short notice versus Preston Parsons. He's a switch stance fighter with heavy kicks who trains out of Kill Cliff FC, formerly Sanford MMA. His experience numbers as a pro are virtually identical to Sadykhov's. In his pro debut versus Atkins, Evans looked good on the feet. He got a takedown 90 seconds in. He passed the side a little later, passed him out with 50 seconds left in the round, and he ground and pounded the shit out of Atkins until he was forced to tap to strikes because the Keith Peterson-like ref was smoking with cigarettes over on the other side of the cage, talking to fans in the crowd while this guy was getting the shit kicked out of him. And it was like one of the worst non-stoppages I've seen in any fight. But he actually forced this guy Atkins to tap to the strikes from ground and pound because the referee clearly had never reffed a professional fight before. Versus Holly, Elder got a takedown 15 seconds into the fight. He got right to side control, dropped ground and pound, and he hunted for submissions. Evan got the crucifix with 1:45 left in the round. He got to a reverse triangle armbar position, and he finished with the armbar. He finished Fisher with a left hook that went to ground and pound. And then he finished Genrich, or he went versus Genrich, won a 3-round striking battle, and he looked good doing it. 29-28 on all 3 cards there. And then versus Padilla, he landed a nasty left head kick to finish the fight early in the first. He finished a complete bum in FAC, who is now 9 wins and 20 losses, but he did look good doing it. The Parsons fight was brutal, but understandable seeing as he took it up a weight class on short notice, and he showed great durability and heart in that fight. So Evan has some nice measurables advantages here. He's a couple years younger than Sadykhov. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage. He's also a switch stance fighter fighting a southpaw, so that's also a nice advantage for Elder there. These guys have almost identical experience numbers. Sadykhov's finish stats are a little bit better, but Elder has never been finished before, while Nazim has. Neither one of these guys has what I would call a signature win, though. I think this fight plays out very close. Both have flashy, effective kicks on the feet, and both have shown the ability to win minutes on the ground. I think the value side is Elder here, so I'll wind up picking him to win by decision, but I really feel like this fight is a coin flip, and because of that, I feel like where the line is right now, that the value is on the Evan Elder side. We got to find out a lot about these guys yet. 8 pro fights for Elder, 8 pro fights for Nazim Sadykhov. Nazim 28, Evan Elder only 25 years old. So they're both growing. They're both rounding out their games. They're both learning how to put it all together, but they're both in the right spot to do that. Nazim's at a great camp training over there with Ray Longo and Chris Weidman. Evan Elder's at a great camp down there at Kill Cliff FC. And these guys are both growing into their careers as mixed martial artists. They're going to square off on Saturday. 2 young fighters looking to take that next step. And I can't wait to see this one. But the pick is going to be Evan Elder to win by decision, everybody. All right. And let's move on to the next. What do we got here? Alexander the Great Ape Hernandez versus Jim A10 Miller. Hernandez minus 225 on short notice. Jim Miller plus 190. Fight doesn't go to decision. Juiced up to minus 230 here. Wow, that is a heavy line for a fight doesn't go to decision here. But I see what they're getting at. Look, we got Alexander Hernandez is about 9 years younger than Jim Miller. He's an inch taller. He's got a 1-inch reach advantage. It's a southpaw versus orthodox matchup. We got Miller with 52 pro fights, 484 minutes in the pro cage. So if this fight goes the distance, he will be 1/2 of a minute away from spending 500 minutes of his life in a steel cage fighting for his life. God bless you, Jim Miller. I don't know how you've done it this long, but what a credit to the sport he is. Over a 17-year and 2-month career, having 52 fights. Can you imagine 3 fights a year for 17 years, and you had Lyme disease somewhere in there for like a 5-year stretch? This guy's an absolute animal. And then we got the Great Ape on the other side. Just made his first cut down to 145, taking this fight on short notice. It'll be back up at 155, so we won't have that heavier cut to make this time, but he still has to cut to make 155, and it probably won't be easy because this is kind of a short turnaround here for Alex, as he just lost to Billy Quarantillo about a month ago via a pretty nasty second-round knockout here. So Miller's more known for his grappling, And Hernandez is definitely more known for his striking on the feet. At distance, these guys both absorb more strikes than what they land. And but it is Hernandez who throws more volume than his opponents at distance, while Miller throws less. And it's going to be Hernandez with the 1-inch reach advantage and the 1-inch height advantage here. In terms of grappling, we've got Alexander Hernandez is doing a good job of winning control time positions. He's spending about 25% of his fights there, and he's winning 63% of the control time positions, while Jim Miller spends about 48% of his fights in control time positions, but he's only winning about a third of them. So Jim Miller is definitely the more likely guy to get taken down and held down. And as we saw in Hernandez's last fight against Quarantillo, we really did see him go to the wrestling quite a bit. Hernandez did get 2 takedowns in this fight. He went for 6 of them, and he controlled for 4 minutes of the 9.5 minutes of this fight. So we've definitely seen Alexander Hernandez start to go to this wrestling a little bit more. In addition to that, he's going to be the more powerful striker on the feet as well. So I see why he's the favorite here. But if you're laying that juice, you do have to remember that, Hernandez's last fight took place on December 10th. So it's been only 2 months removed from a vicious knockout against Billy Quarantillo. Quick turnaround, quick weight cut, short notice fight here against an experienced veteran in Jim Miller, who's really seen it all over his time in the cage, almost 500 minutes in the pro cage. So it is a very interesting fight. In terms of strength of schedule here, we got a better number here for Alexander Hernandez than Jim Miller. And we got a much better ratio here for Alexander Hernandez's wins than we do for Jim Miller's. The wins for Jim Miller recently are over a washed-up Donald Cerrone and over 2 young fighters in Nick Mata and Eric Gonzalez. And, and the wins for Hernandez aren't good either recently, as we've got Gritzmacher and Mike Breeden. But then we also see that Hernandez had wins over Benil Dariush and not Ovince St. Preux, Olivier Aubin Mercier. So in that fight, Hernandez, we saw some really nice wrestling and grappling. He out-grappled Olivier Aubin Mercier. So I do see Hernandez getting the job done here. I do see him winning this fight. But I think it's going to go the distance, actually. Right now, we've got a -230 for fight doesn't go to decision. And these guys haven't had a lot of fights that have went to decision at the pro level. But if we look at the prop template here for Miller and Hernandez for this fight goes, right? We do see that 40% of their combined UFC fights have went to decision, 14 of 35. And we've only got a 34.5% line here. So it's about a 5.5% break when we compare the combined performance at the UFC level to the implied probability of the line. And we're paying only 34.4% when 49.46% of 155-pound fights that are slated for 3 rounds go to decision. So this is a very underpriced line. It's a fat plus money number. But, Miller and Hernandez are both good finishers, so I understand that. But the analytics do like this fight goes to decision bet. And I'm going to go a little bit against the grain here. And I'm going to pick Alexander Hernandez to win this fight. But I'm going to pick him to win it by decision, actually. So there's that, everybody. Let me see what's going on here for a second. And we got 36 of you live hanging out. Thank each and every one of you for spending your Tuesday night with me. I'd appreciate it if you'd smash that like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. And then also the Patreon. If you want to support the content, it's only $5 a month for the basic stats package, $20 a month for the advanced stats package. And there will be some new tiers on that Patreon starting in March with some new products. And we will have a tier as well for the advanced stats as well. So that include the distance striking stats. So please consider supporting me at the Patreon. But if you don't feel like doing that, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. That's free, and I appreciate it very much. All right, so let's see here. We got the next fight is going to be Marcin Prachnio versus William Knight. Neither one of these guys can be trusted. with your money. It's a money line that I'm just going to be absolutely staying away from, and I think it's a violence line I'm going to be staying away from. But we've got both of these guys are 34 years old, so they're both getting past it. Prachnio is, though, 5 inches taller, though, and he's got a 1-inch reach advantage. He's going to be the much longer guy here, as William Knight's just like a bricked-up bodybuilder. Prachnio more experienced. He's got 6 more professional fights, and both of these guys have 6 fights at the UFC level, but it's Knight who spent a lot more time in the UFC cage and a lot more time, well, not a lot more time, but more time in the pro cage. Knight is a 100% finisher in his 11 wins. Marcin Prachnio is an 80% finisher in his 15 wins. So both of these guys are finishing their fights. And then overall, in their 10 combined losses, it looks like 6 of them are inside the distance. So neither one of these guys has shown a lot of durability either. William Knight 0-2 in decisions, Prachnio 3-2 in decisions. One of the biggest stats I see here that makes a difference to me is that Prachnio is not showing power. He's only landed 1 knockdown in the UFC, while Knight is landing knockdowns on 1.85% of the distance strikes that he lands. But the thing here is the minute winning, right? Prachnio throws a lot more volume than William Knight, and he lands a lot more, and he's a lot more accurate, and he's a lot more defensively sound. As we see, Prachnio is about 11% more accurate. He lands about 3 more distance strikes per minute than William Knight does, and he absorbs less distance strikes per minute than William Knight does. So William Knight is a negative 1.7 distance striking differential, while Marcin Prachnio's is a positive 2.05. So while this is at distance, you got a guy that does throw kicks in Marcin Prachnio who's long, and then a guy who's primarily a boxer in Knight who doesn't throw a lot of kicks and has a hard time closing range. So William Knight, in order to have any success on the feet here, he's going to have to pressure. He's going to have to walk forward. And we've seen that Prachnio is, he moves pretty well for a big guy, and he's probably going to have to skirt along the outside of the cage dealing with William Knight's pressure. But if he does that successfully, he's going to outland Knight for the full 15 minutes because Knight is not accurate at all, and he just doesn't throw enough volume either. You see 8 distance strikes per minute at distance offered from Knight, over 12 from Prachnio. So while Knight's going to be the more powerful guy, it's going to be Prachnio who's going to be the minute winner on the feet, and the much more technical and the much more fast and the much more busy kickboxer here. Now, William Knight's 9 of 22 on his takedowns, but he's not winning control time positions at this level. Neither is Marcin, but both of these guys are getting out-controlled. It's, as a matter of fact, William Knight wins 27% of the control time positions he's in, and Prachnio wins about 26. So for those of you who are saying that you think William Knight's going to out-grapple Marcin Prachnio has only been controlled for 16.47% of the fights that he's been in, and he's faced 2 takedown attempts per fight, and he's been taken down 1.97 times per 15 minutes, which is about the same amount of times that William Knight's been taken down. But you see William Knight getting controlled 41% of his UFC cage time, while for Prachnio, it's only 16.47. In terms of the level of competition that they've faced, it's Prachnio is facing the more experienced competition, but William Knight with the better win-loss ratio competition. And then the wins aren't really impressive for either one of them. This is going to be a close fight, you guys, but I've lost all faith in William Knight. I mean, when you miss weight by 14 pounds, and then the next fight you have to come out and fight Devin Clark at heavyweight, and you get knocked out by a guy who's never finished anybody in the UFC in 14 or 15 UFC fights, I don't think this guy cares anymore. And he's already going on 35, so he's going to be past it pretty quickly. Looks like he doesn't have his weight under control. It looks like he gassed out quickly against Devin Clark. And it looks like he's not there. So I kind of feel like William Knight is kind of like knockout or bust here. And I don't trust him to knock anybody out at this level. The last guy he knocked out was Fabio Charant, and that means absolutely nothing to me. So, I'm going to be picking Marcin Prachnio to win this fight by decision. So let's get that up on the screen here. Knight, Prachnio. Look at that attempted leather there on that outfit, huh? Look at that hat. Look at that vest. He's got things around his arms here. Can't believe he's not been arrested for attempted leather, but it is what it is, you guys. Marcin Prachnio by decision with very, very little faith. We've got 3 fights left here. We got your obligatory sloppy heavyweight fight that is on the main card here. It's Josh Parisian going up against Jamal Pogues. Pogues a big favorite at minus 240. Parisian plus 205. Fight doesn't go to decision. Sitting up at minus 110 for this fight. So let's get the stats up here and let's get my notes up here. Let's start by talking about Josh Parisian. So Parisian, here, I need a sip of this, you guys. I'm working hard over here. And the mouthfeel of these double dry hopped IPAs that are hazy is just, it's absolutely lovely. But anyway, Parisian, big, experienced heavyweight, 6'4", 79-inch reach, 20 pro fights, 150 minutes in the pro cage. He throws a lot of kicks and he throws a lot of spinning shit at range. He's surprisingly diverse with his selection, and he does excellent work on the ground when he's able to get takedowns and make his opponent wear his body weight. Josh has finished 14 of his 15 pro wins, and he's got a 1-2 career record in decisions. Josh is definitely a high-volume heavyweight. He throws 17 distance strikes per minute at distance, but he has a 49% distance striking defense. That's not good. Josh has to rely on his durability because he tends to block punches with his face. Josh went to war with Roque Martinez, and he won a razor-close split decision there. He had trouble dealing with the pressure of Roque. And Roque's clinch work also gave him a lot of troubles as he was landing a lot of uppercuts in the clinch. Roque won the first round and the third round on my card, and Josh won the second, but Josh wound up getting the nod, 29-28 split decision. Parisian got absolutely mauled by Don'Tale Mayes. Mayes took him down over and over again and mauled him on the ground, finishing with the crucifix in the third, got him in the crucifix, dropped elbows, and even came close to finishing him by smashing him with his cup from the top position. So he gets on top of Parisian, puts his nuts right on Parisian's face, and then he starts putting his hips up and smashing the cup down into Parisian's face. And Herb Dean was actually laughing because I could tell Herb was like, I don't know if that's actually illegal by the book, but you probably shouldn't be doing that. It's the only time I've seen Herb Dean really laugh in the cage, and it was fucking funny. But yeah, you know, you lose a fight, that's one thing. It's going to happen, right? But when you lose a fight because, you know, and the dude's like smashing his cup into your face, that's a whole nother level of humiliation that most people aren't used to dealing with. And that was a tough loss for Josh Parisian there. Let's see. Badeau, the Badeau fight. Josh almost got finished in the first after he got dropped by Alan Badeau. And Alan ground and pounded him and was dangerously close to finishing. Josh got a late takedown, though, at the end of the first round, and he got some ground and pound of his own and showed that he had a path to victory if he continued to wrestle. Came out in the second round, and Badeau cracks Josh with a huge uppercut early in the second, and as soon as that happened, Josh was like, fuck this, I'm wrestling again. He wrestled, he got an easy takedown. He finished the fight with ground and pound as Alan was completely gassed from trying to finish that fight in the first. When we talk about Jamal Pogues, now Jamal's only 27 years old. Okay, so very young for a heavyweight, but he's already got 12 pro fights. He's already got 100 minutes in the pro cage, and he also has an 8-1 amateur career that lasted for 2 years. Jamal's very experienced and well-rounded for his age, and in a weight class where there are very few skilled fighters with a well-rounded skill set, Jamal could have a very high ceiling here in the heavyweight weight class. We've seen Jamal both use a wrestling heavy game plan and a striking heavy game plan in his 2 Dana White Contender Series wins. He definitely has fought some really good regional scene competition as well. He's fought guys like Taylor Johnson, Jordan Young, Marcos Brigagal, Kyle Noblet, Tim Hiley. let's see. And was there a name I was forgetting in there? What was the name of that? Alex Polizzi. He fought Alex Polizzi as well, who's a very good fighter who actually just lost to, in the third round, he lost to Yoel Romero in Bellator. So this guy's, he's fighting some really good competition. But a lot of those fights were at 205 pounds. Now that he's moving up to heavyweight, we still need to see how he's going to do against people his own size. So wrestling worked at 205 for Jamal, but it's going to be harder to get takedowns on these big guys. So it's definitely a show-me spot for Pogues. He's got a diverse skill set, but he needs to show that he can put together complete, intelligent performances against top-notch competition. And Parisian's going to be a good test to see where this young man is at right now. Parisian does his best work at distance when he isn't being pressured, and he can use his length and kicks since Jamal doesn't really pressure and mostly throws one strike at a time. I could see the striking exchanges being close here, but I do favor Pogues. He's the crisper boxer. He's much faster, and his punches come straight down the pipe. So this is a show-me spot for Jamal Pogues, but he's younger, he's faster, he's the better wrestler, and he's the much better boxer. He's also fought a comparable level of competition in comparison to Parisian, and he's 6 years younger than Josh. Josh is extremely durable, though, and he does his best work when he's on top, but he's only completed 4 UFC takedowns, and I think 3 of them were versus Badeau, who stinks on ice when it comes to stopping takedowns. So we've seen Jamal get taken down by 205ers, but they were much better wrestlers than Josh Parisian. So I do favor Jamal here. I think he gets a decision win, but I'm not counting Josh out. I still need to see Jamal fight with a good game plan at this level that highlights his strengths and his opponent's weaknesses. Once I see that, I'll be ready to drop a bag on this kid's next fight. But until that happens, I feel like I need to be very cautious. The pick is going to be Jamal Pogues, though, by decision. And I think that this kid's got a very bright future being a well-rounded heavyweight that's experienced, that's fought good level of competition, and that looks like he might be able to put it all together by having more than one path to victory. And in a division where fighters have very few paths to victory. The co-main event here, Jordan, the Beverly Hills Ninja Wright at plus 230, coming up against Zach Pauga at minus 270, Zach the Ripper. And we got the fight doesn't go to decision, juice to the tits at minus 600 here. So this is another very interesting fight. Hamdi definitely shot up. Dude, Hamdi's suspended for 2 years for what he pissed hot for in that Don'Tale Mayes fight. So it makes me feel a lot better about picking Don'Tale Mayes as the ass shaving of the week that week, even though because he put on a terrible performance, but maybe it was because Hamdi was like on tiger blood out there and showed 10 times more conditioning than he would have had he not been on the gas. So yeah, Hamdi, rest in peace. 2 years that we will not be seeing Hamdi in the UFC due to the chicanery that he pulled. Yeah, I'll never forget laying chalk on Don'Tale Mayes. Yeah, I did too, man. Neither of these guys should be in the UFC. Completely disagree, Tommy. Unless you're talking about Jordan Wright and Zach Pauga, I think that Jamal Pogues is going to be very good in the heavyweight weight class. Dude, this kid's been an amateur at the age of 19. 2 wins over Jared Vandera as an amateur. A bunch of pro wins. Really good level of competition. Good wrestling. Brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Really good boxing. And a solid gas tank. So I think Pogues has got a super high ceiling. And I think that he's going to get a lot of wins in the UFC because of all the attributes that I mentioned. But Josh Parisian, yikes. Yeah, man, not great, man. If Jordan Wright gets one more under 1.5, he's a Hall of Famer in my book. Yeah, I hear you, man. That's for sure. You got to love guys that do the under 1.5 so easy, like every damn time they're cashing those under 1.5s for you because of the way that they fight. So here we go. Zach Pauga versus Jordan Wright here. And let me get the stats up on the screen. So it's actually Jordan Wright who's younger here by about 3.5 years. He's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage here. They're both orthodox fighters. Jordan Wright, a lot more experience, 11 more pro fights, but Pauga's got 25 more minutes in the pro cage due to the fact that his average fight time is 11.33 minutes, while Jordan Wright's is 2.48 minutes. Jordan Wright, 100% finish rate as a pro. Zach Pauga, 20% finish rate as a pro. Jordan Wright's been finished in 100% of his losses, and Zach Pauga's been finished in 100% of his losses. While this is on the feet, I think Jordan Wright will be the far more dangerous striker here because both of these guys have got glass chins. Neither one of these guys has any durability whatsoever. So that's something that I really worry about. I do not like the way that Zach Pauga reacts to getting hit at all. He looks like anytime something lands square that he gets confused. And Jordan Wright has got no chin at all. The first heavy shot that lands on him usually puts him out. So I see this fight definitely finishing in the first 2 rounds because both guys have got power and both guys have got no durability. In terms of the grappling, I don't think we're going to see much of it here. Jordan Wright has started trying for takedowns at the UFC level. He's gotten some. He's gotten 5 and 6 fights. He's actually averaging 3.72 per 15 minutes because his fights very rarely last a long time. But he's definitely not what you would call like a traditional grappler that goes out there and wins minutes with wrestling, top control, submission attempts, that kind of stuff. The submissions that Jordan Wright has in his career are over guys with 0 UFC wins or 0 wins in their careers. You know, they're against complete cans. So this is glass chin against glass chin. But Jordan Wright's glass chin was at 185. Now he's moving up to 205. While Zach Pauga fought most of his career at 205. But for the Ultimate Fighter chance, he moved up to heavyweight. So his last 3 fights were against big boys, you know, Muhammad Usman, Niall Bartling, and Jordan Heiderman. And those Bartling and the Heiderman fights were in the house, so they're not official fights. But we saw Zach finish Heiderman. We saw him unanimous decision. The other guy, Bartling, and he showed really good takedown defense in the Bartling fight. So I don't think Jordan Wright is going to be able to get takedowns here. I think this fight's going to take place on the feet, and I think somebody's going to get knocked out early. I think it's Zach Pauga. I think Jordan Wright's going to knock this dude out. I'm not really confident in who wins the fight. What I am really confident in is that fight doesn't start round 3 as a parlay piece this week. And it is a track bet for me. So I will tell you guys about that shortly thereafter. But I'm going to actually pick Jordan Wright to win this one by first round knockout, everybody. I'd like to see him get right here. You know, if I had more faith in Pauga's chin, I would pick him to win this one 10 times out of 10. But I don't think Zach Pauga has a chin. And Jordan Wright, he hits hard, you guys. It's very hard. So I'm going to pick Jordan Wright to win by first round knockout. And I'll probably even try to play that at plus 700 or plus 800 for a small amount because it's Wright's best win condition. But, you know, Brady brought up a really good point here in that, you know, Zach Pauga trains with Curtis Blades. You know, so when we saw Pauga in the house stopping takedowns from Heiderman, stopping taking takedowns from the other guy, Bartling, you know, it's because he's in the gym every day with a guy like Curtis Blades, and he knows what a real heavyweight wrestler looks like. Jordan Wright has been training with Vladimir Matyushenko. He's been rounding out his wrestling game, but it's not top notch, you guys, and it's not ready to dominate in this weight class or any other in the UFC. So, yeah, we'll see who winds up getting knocked out here. I'm going to pick Jordan Wright, but I think the best bet for this fight is the fight doesn't start round 3. Minus 265 on BetOnline Sportsbook. All right, that brings us to the main event of the evening. We got Erin Blanchfield, cold-blooded at plus 133, squaring off against Bate Estaca, the very handsome Jessica Andrade, minus 153. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 230. My camera just went off for some reason. There we go. And it went off again. Technical difficulties. There we are. All right. So, AFG Baller saying, Meezy, this card might be the worst in name value I've ever seen. Yeah, it's not great, man. It's not great, that's for sure. But if we can make some money on it, we'll look back on this card with fond memories. So let's try to find those spots. Jessica Andrade versus Erin Blanchfield here. So Blanchfield, 8 years younger, 3 inches taller with a 4-inch reach advantage. Love the measurables, right? We also love the the narrative advantage here for Blanchfield in that Jessica Andrade just fought less than a month ago. A full 3 rounds, landed over 200 significant strikes against poor Lauren Murphy. So quick turnaround and a short notice fight that's scheduled for 5 rounds here for Jessica Andrade. So if you're on that Andrade side, that's got to temper your confidence just a little bit, knowing that it's a quick turnaround, that it's short notice, that she might not even be fully recovered in her hands from landing all those shots on Lauren Murphy. So we will see if she's 100%. We're going to have to wait until Saturday to find out if she is, but at least she doesn't have to cut down to 115. But, short notice, short turnaround, 2 weight cuts in a month, none of those things are good. But on the feet, it's going to be all Jessica Andrade. You look at her at distance, she lands more than she absorbs. She's got power. She spends 63.5% of her time at distance, 136 minutes there, 46% accuracy, 59% defense. Really good stuff from Jessica Andrade here. And, Erin is actually winning minutes at range as well, throwing more volume than her opponents, landing almost 2 more significant strikes per minute at distance than her opponents do. And she's got a 61% striking defense at range. But we know on the feet that Jessica Andrade's power and pressure are things that are very difficult to deal with. And both of these ladies wrestle fantastically. 4 takedowns per 15 minutes for Blanchfield, 2.72 for Andrade, 55% accuracy for Andrade, 68% accuracy for Blanchfield. Blanchfield, 75% takedown defense, close to that for Jessica Andrade. We see Jessica gets 27% control time, allows about 9, while Erin Blanchfield getting 61% control time while allowing less than 2% against. So a 32-to-1 ratio of control time for to control time against for Erin Blanchfield, while for Jessica Andrade, it's 2.77-to-1. So she's certainly no slouch. Overall strength of schedule, 1.43 ratio for Andrade, 1.42 for Blanchfield, 7.25 total fights for Blanchfield, 12.14 for Andrade. Ratio in wins, 1.23 for Andrade, 1.42 for Blanchfield. But the more experienced competition, Jessica Andrade is winning here. So Jessica has faced the better brand of competition. Her last 4 fights that she's lost were all to champions. Those champions were Valentina Shevchenko, Rose Namajunas, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and Wang Jieli. Yeah. So that's the kind of fighter that's beating Jessica Andrade. Blanchfield isn't there yet, but she does appear to have the skill set. If you can't stop this girl's takedowns and you can't keep her from being on top of you, you're going to have a bad time out there because she is an absolute menace on top. Her performance against Miranda Maverick was a real eye-opener. And she didn't look great against Aldrich, but it should also be, noted that she came back and she suffered through some adversity and found a way to win that fight, to win one moment in that fight because she was having problems winning minutes. And when she found that moment, she finished the fight immediately. She got that high elbow guillotine. She put her against the cage so that she couldn't drop to her back. And it was a perfect way to finish the fight. So we see Erin being able to not only win the fights that she's supposed to win and the fights that are going according to script, but if a fight goes tits up for her too, and it goes off script, it's good to know that she can turn things around and find ways to win moments that get her back into the fight or potentially even win the fight. But this is a tall order. It's a very tall order to fight somebody that brings the pressure, the experience, the conditioning, the volume, the power that Jessica Andrade possesses. She really is the total package. And, like I say, she's been fighting much better competition recently. And, what was really an eye-opener was the fact that she never slowed down in that Murphy fight, despite the fact that she seemed to be perpetually trying to finish the fight. Those are the kind of situations where you can have that adrenaline dump, where you're landing. You hear the ref saying, fight back, and you know that if you just give a couple more shots, you can get that ref to step in. The ref never stepped in, and she kept redlining by putting out that volume, but she never really got tired. So, I mean, Andrade looks locked in right now. So I think that there's no way that this fight goes 5 rounds, but there's some problems here, right? How can we really be confident on either side? We've never seen Erin Blanchfield in a 5-round fight before, right? Never once has she had a fight scheduled in her entire 11-fight career as a professional that's been scheduled for 5 rounds. So we don't know what 5-round Erin Blanchfield looks like. Now, Jessica Andrade, she's had 5 5-round fights, and 4 of those 5 fights have finished inside the distance and very quickly. The only one that didn't was against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and her fights tend to go the distance all the time anyway. So this is a very tough fight to pick. It's the step up for Blanchfield, but it's short notice and a quick turnaround and 2 weight cuts in a month for Jessica Andrade. Because Blanchfield is younger, because her grappling game is absolutely next level, I think that she might be able to find a way to get this one done. But I'm very non-committal on the pick because I could see Jessica stuffing takedowns, and if that happens, I don't see a path for victory for Erin Blanchfield here on the feet, unless she gets another high elbow guillotine up against the cage or something like that. So, yeah, there's paths to victory for both fighters. But I'm going to pick Jessica Andrade. I think I'm going to pick Jessica Andrade to win this one by 3rd round knockout. But with very little confidence. But one thing that I am confident in is that this fight is going to finish inside the distance. So I think that fight doesn't go to decision is an absolutely fantastic bet here. So let's see here. That brings us, we've done it. So we've finished all 11 fights. We've got picks for all 11 fights. So let's go to the track bets that I have thus far for UFC Vegas 69. So the very first bet was 2.5 units on the over 2.5 rounds in the Lansberg Silva fight. I got that at minus 110. The prop template has that as a trifecta bet. If we go to the Lansberg fight here on the prop template, we can see for that over 2.5, which is now at minus 170. So it's about 10% in implied probability away from where I got it, but it's still 6.85% underpriced according to the 69.81% benchmark for the division. It's 12% underpriced when you compare the 75% combined over 2.5 rate for Lansberg and Silva at the UFC level to the 63% implied probability of the line. And they finish at 75%. The division finishes at 69.81% of the time, so that's a 5.19% break. It's a lovely trifecta bet. The analytics love it. 8 of 9 of Lina Lansberg's fights in the UFC that have been scheduled for 3 rounds have went over 2.5 rounds, so I think it's a fantastic bet. And then we've got 1 unit on the Lina Lansberg money line at plus 330. That's plus 330, not plus 230. And I've got a 1 unit parlay on the fight doesn't start round 3 for Pauga versus Wright, and the fight doesn't go to decision for Andrade versus Blanchfield. That comes out to 1.0 or minus 109, and I've got 1 unit on that. It's my first track parlay in months. But there are 2 spots that I absolutely do love. And then there is 1 more bet that is going to be coming behind that. And that bet, everybody, is going to be the last order of business that we have here on the day, and that is Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Who is going to get their ass shaved out there? Who is going to lose in violent fashion? And who will be the fighter holding the razor, shaving the ass, dominating their opponent in vicious fashion? And this week, that is going to be somebody that is an 0-2 in the UFC. And it is going to be my guy, AJ Fletcher, to shave the ass of Themba Gorimbo. I don't know what Themba Gorimbo is doing here. And I think that AJ Fletcher has found success against much better fighters than Themba Gorimbo. I think he's extremely dangerous. Gorimbo is not durable. And I think that AJ Fletcher is either going to get an easy takedown here and land massive ground and pound and get an arm triangle choke, or he's going to land a big shot in the feet and sleep this guy. But either way, It's going to be AJ Fletcher shaving the ass of Themba Gorimbo, and I will have at least a 1-unit bet on Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, AJ Fletcher, to go out there and finish this fight inside the distance against one Themba Gorimbo. Zimbabwe, stand up. Themba Gorimbo is your first fighter to make it to the UFC, but unfortunately, he's going to get his ass shaved by AJ Fletcher on Saturday. I'd like to thank all of you guys for coming here and hanging out, spending your Tuesday evening with your Uncle Weezy. 45 of you guys hanging out live. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button on your way out. God bless each and every one of you, and let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 69. Turn around this one event losing streak into a one event winning streak, and then start stacking cash tickets like flapjacks from there on out. Good night, everybody. Thank you for hanging out, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow on Pub Sports Radio for the DFS show, and then I'll see you right after that at 8 o'clock Eastern time for Chronic Combat Conversations with TB and the Guru. Good night, everybody. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you guys tomorrow.